Hey guys, Alex here, and I just watched The Car, The Road to Revenge, and this is a sequel to the 1977 cult car movie, The Car, which featured this modified 1971 Lincoln Continental going around killing people for no apparent reason, and that thing was demonically possessed, and it was killing for no particular reason. Now, this movie is a bit different. This movie gives a motivation to the car killing people. That said, this is not the same car from the original, but there is a homage scene to it, which links the two cars together. Now, this movie was also made by Universal, and some people didn't like this sequel for various reasons. The only reason that I find justified is that it does feel a little bit cheap. That said, the first movie, made in 1977, was kind of cheap too. They were both pretty low-budget, cheesy car horror movies. It's hard to say which movie is actually better if you're going to judge them by their time periods. Because in 1977, that car that came out was... it was, as I said, it was pretty cheesy, very low budget, but over time it became memorable. Who's to say that this movie will become just as well remembered in cult circles? Who knows? So I want to talk about the cars here. I actually do prefer the car design in the sequel compared to the original car design in 1977. So again, the car in 1977 was a Lincoln Continental. It was a 1971 year, and it was modified to look a bit different. And honestly, it looks really cheap. Like, just looking at the body on that car, it just looked like a toy car. But one thing can be said about it: it's very iconic. If you see that car, you can't mistake it for any other car. It's very iconic. Now, this movie does not use a Lincoln Continental. This one uses a Chrysler 300. It's got some weird mods to it. For example, it's got these Lambo doors, which open vertically. They also call them scissor doors. And it looks like they took all the badging off of this Chrysler for whatever reason. Now, in this movie... this car goes through 3 different stages in its appearance. The first stage is the one that you see on the cover, and that's its more stock form. In its second stage, that's when the car gets damaged, and it gets fixed up by the actor Ronny Cox, who appeared as Luke in the first movie. So I guess this was another thing connecting these two movies, was this one actor. He wasn't really the star of 1977 movie, but he was in it. But yeah, he goes and he repairs the Chrysler 300 using the original car design. It definitely wasn't the original car. It definitely looked like it though, but I was looking at still images comparing the two noses, and they do have some differences. But that was a good homage though. When he unveils the car, you see the 1977 inspiration on that car. So yeah, he retrofits the whole nose end of the 1977 version, and he attaches it onto the Chrysler 300. So to me, the second stage of the Chrysler looks way better than the 1977 version. Like, it looks more realistic. It looks less toy-like. So yeah, the front end looks like the one from 1977, and the rest of the body is the Chrysler 300. It's got like a 5-spoke wheel. Some are blacked out. The others are still factory silver. There's no license plate, just like in the 1977 movie. But yeah, now, the reason why this car gets possessed in the sequel is there's this district attorney, and he's really hard on crime. But at the same time, he's hard on everyone else, even the people that he supposedly loves. He meets his old love interest, and she reveals that he is a control freak. And in this movie, he's a control freak, and he is not a very good person. Even though he fights crime, he is not a good person at all. And later on, he becomes the car after the bad guys kill him. His soul it infuses with the this new car that he buys in the movie, which they describe as a black luxury sedan. They can't just call it a Chrysler 300, I guess for legal reasons, whatever. So that's the second stage of the car. The third stage, that's when the car blows up. Spoiler, the car does blow up. And then in its third stage, like the doors are missing, a lot of the hood's missing. Just a lot of it's almost down to its skeletal structure, but you can still see it's a Chrysler 300. It's kind of funny though, seeing the wheels on this car change from scene to scene. Like when you watch the movie, you'll see that the wheels are not consistent at all. And it's a continuity issue, hardcore, for whatever reason. So yeah, do I like this movie? I do like this movie. I need to give it more time because again, the 1977 version had more time to settle in within cult circles, and people have had all this time to remember it, where this new movie just came out and people are obviously going to slam it. But I think it's a pretty solid movie, to be honest. The setting's a lot different. In the original movie, that was set somewhere in the West, in a more realistic time period. Whereas this movie, the movie describes this time period as being, well, it's a dilapidated cyberpunk city. So kind of like a futuristic look, but very punk-like. So the time period is a lot different than the first movie. Hard to say which one I prefer. Again, time will tell. Right now, I do prefer the time period of the 1977 version. But again, I prefer this car in this movie. What else to say? Yeah, so Ronny Cox does make an appearance. He makes a cameo from the first movie. I didn't really know anyone else in this movie, except for the district attorney who becomes the car, and that was played by oh god, I forgot his name, but he plays Apollo in the new Battlestar Galactica TV series. So that guy plays the district attorney, and everyone else I didn't really know who they were exactly. So it wasn't the most famous cast, but I think they did a solid job, because again, this is a car movie at its core. And most car movies don't have a really, recognizable cast, to be honest. Well, no, that's not true. But for a movie like this, yeah, it's not to be expected to have, incredible star power. So I talked a lot about the car itself and not so much the story, because I love focusing on the cars in these kind of movies. And again, I want to say the car design in this, I believe, is superior to the car design in the original, just because the one in the original was just too fake looking. but this one paid homage to the original, added the front end to the Chrysler, and it looked pretty darn good, I gotta say. That said, I will give the car scenes to the first movie, because in the first movie, it's nothing sped up. It's all, played in real time. Whereas in the sequel, there's a lot of undercranking or fast forwarding of the camera, which looks pretty cheap. You can see all these cars coming out at super fast speeds, and it's unrealistic looking. So the car action is better in the first movie, but the car is better in the second movie, if that makes any sense. So would I recommend this? If you're a fan of the first movie, I would recommend it. If you just want to see a car horror movie, I recommend this too. And this definitely has a lot of homages to Christine as well, the movie Christine, because when you see how they deal with this car, it just reminded me a lot of Christine, how they dealt with Christine in that warehouse factory setting. So, have you guys seen this movie? What did you guys think about it? I wish there was more on the CD, on the DVD itself, because there's no extras in this, no extra scenes. It's just a movie. There's no inside pamphlet either. So I was looking for special features. There's nothing. They could have talked about the car. I mean, that's the reason why we watched this movie, right? It was because of the car. Yeah, that's... Can't think of anything else to say. Yeah, I do recommend it. It's not the greatest movie, but it's not a terrible movie like all the reviews say it was.